Hey, I'm here with my Porsche Coanda Esports teammates, and we're here in Kallenberg, where the holy warehouse of Porsche is. There's where all the historic cars are supposed to be.
And we thought that we wouldn't come here empty-handed, so we brought one of our rigs to put amongst these racing legends.
So why don't we just ring the doorbell and see if we can enter?
Hi guys, welcome to Kallenberg. It's the place where we saw all our historic, good-looking cars, so let's have a look inside. I saw you brought the rig. Perfect.
Of
so
course.
Let's jump in.
Let's go. So Mark, I see your name on here, so this must have been yours.
Yeah, it is. It is. It brings back good memories. 919 hybrid from 2016, where we won Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship with it. That was a great time. It was probably the one time I really enjoyed the most. My best years in racing.
Yeah, must have been pretty cool. And I guess Le Mans is for sure a special place as well, right?
Yeah, of course. Le Mans especially. It's a unique place, it's a unique track. The atmosphere is unbelievable. The whole week is just building up with pressure and everything. So it's just a phenomenal week always. The first time you go there, it's like it's blowing you away completely. But still, when you're there after 10 or 15 years, it's still amazing and you still get goosebumps when you enter the track.
Yeah.
It's just one of these events you're really looking forward while you're preparing the whole season. And it's such a highlight in the middle of the year where everyone was preparing for that big one. It's really cool to be there and then to soak up the atmosphere.
And like physically, how is it different from a GT car? Because you drove GT cars before. This must be quite a different preparation physically as well when it comes to driving the car.
Definitely. I mean, the biggest issue, because I was driving for many years only GT cars, for me it was a big change, and the biggest problem was my neck. So I had to prepare my neck, because when you're pulling 3 or 4 Gs lateral, it's quite a lot. And then your head's quite heavy in some corners. And especially when you're doing like 3 or 4 hours in the night at Le Mans, You have to be physically well prepared, but also mentally, because it's so demanding, so exhausting. You have to just prepare everything, and it just adds this extra level of preparation before Le Mans. It's just an exciting time always.
When it comes to mental preparation, because you go around the track so much faster, I guess you get a little less rest on the straights. Does that change at all when it comes to your the mental side of things?
Well, you get used to it, I mean, it's at the end, it's a racing car with 4 tires and a steering wheel and a bit more power and more downforce. But of course, the mental preparation was tough, especially for Le Mans, because there was so much pressure, so much attention from the outside. Board members are there, people are watching, and they're just like, okay, let's do it, let's go for the win. So there's quite some pressure you have to deal with and cope with it. The mental stress, driving in the night when you're really tired, with less lights, with traffic. This is the most demanding part, and that's where you have to be prepared.
Yeah, awesome.
Ooh. 936.
Yeah.
In the Martini colors.
Very cool car, very unique. It's a 77 Le Mans winning car.
Yeah, one of my favorites. It's just crazy to think how kind of successful this car was right out of the bat. I think debuted in 1976. This one's from 77. A car that was just so successful for such a long period of time. It must have been crazy driving these cars back in the day. So slippery, insane top speeds down the Mulsanne. It's chaotic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the cooler areas at Le Mans in the 70s. One of my favorite cars, also with one of my favorite drivers, with Jackie X. He won in 77 with that car, so it was just one of the really cool races. I spoke to Norbert Singer, who was engineering that car in 77, and he was just overwhelmed by the performance from Jackie at that time. I think he did like 6.5 or 7 hours at once in the night. And he basically won that race for that car. And this is one of those cool stories from the past, where you just glued listening to Norbert when he's talking about the car and talking about the drivers back then.
in sim racing for us, strategy is such an important thing. How would they have handled that back then in the 70s, I guess? Trusty calculator?
Yeah, there was a lot of brain work back then, and modern times you have simulations, you have lots of engineers with laptops and high-performance computers, and back then it was 1 or 2 brains in the pits. Norbert Singer was at that time in charge, and he always had these little booklets where he was writing all the times, the setups and everything, and he was calculating tactics and everything with his calculator, and definitely a different time, but he was also one of the first guys to write like proper racing simulation in the 80s with C++, and so it was very interesting to listen to him. But definitely at that time, there were no computers in charge. It was just racing, put the fuel in, tires, and go racing.
That's awesome. It's so raw. I'd love to see some of those books. They'd be huge.
Actually, he has a lot of in his basement. His daughter, she told me that they are in the basement. He had like boxes of little notebooks from the past. So I would love to go there as well and have a look.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
It's so cool to see such an iconic car. To be here next to it, it's gives you goosebumps.
Definitely.
Car that when you think about where it's been and what it's done, it's awesome. It's so cool. Cool. So we moved from the 70s to the 80s.
So I guess one of the most successful cars must be this one, right?
Yeah, definitely. 962 was one of these dominating cars in the 80s at Le Mans. Porsche was just building a car in a very short period of time for the new Group C regulations, and it just, was blowing away the competition. And we're just dominating 7 times in a row. The car still won Le Mans in '94 in a different spec, so really probably the most successful sports car in the history.
That's crazy. I guess the pressure as well on the whole team and the drivers must have really built up after every win they got.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you won, you always want to repeat it. So they had a dedication, they had a passion, they had the right team, the right people, they had the right car. I mean, it's like with you guys, you're a new team, but you stick together. You need to have the passion, you need to have the dedication to win and to perform, and also to repeat also the success, and that's what it makes, what makes a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Because the racing, it's still the same. You have 24 hours, and you need to be awake and be sharp. We don't really have that physical element in sim racing, at least not to the same degree. So it must have been really tough doing the same distance, 24 hours.
But you guys, you have the mental stuff, and when you're tired in the night, and when you're driving Le Mans virtual, and you're not feeling well, and physically you're not mentally prepared as well. So that's for sure. You guys need to be on that game as well.
Yeah, and in sim racing as well, we can practice as 24/7. So it's very important to try to balance. How much do I practice and how much will I sleep and rest, and try to find that balance. And I guess they must have had quite a lot of the same mental challenges.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you couldn't really actually practice a lot. I mean, at that time, the testing wasn't as high and wasn't as big, but they just had to be mentally prepared, like you guys. And they were winning Le Mans in probably one of the coolest areas. Especially, I mean, when I was a kid, I was 5 years old. I was wearing a replica Rothmans Porsche racing suit, so it was really fantastic time, and very cool.
Yeah, I wish I was there to experience it.
Yeah. Right, let's move on. Yeah? I see Mitchell. Huh? Do you like it?
Yeah, this one's amazing. I remember watching this in the US in the late 2000s. It was also successful at Le Mans as well, right?
Yeah, the RS Spider was, it started as a customer project with Penske in the US. The car got sold to customers, so they're racing first in the US and then also in Europe. And there were a few teams running it in Le Mans, and they were quite successful. Definitely has also his mark in the Le Mans history with Porsche, and all the customers loved the car because it was so handy to drive. It was easy, it was lightweight, lots of grip. And just very, very cool to drive as well. So LMP2 you're familiar with, I guess.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We're trying our hand at LMP2 this year, and it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to get a sneak peek here.
Yeah, I mean, you're officially part of Porsche Motorsport now, so you have to earn your stats as well at Le Mans. And when you look over there, you see also Le Mans winner, the 917, where it all started. Back in the late 60s, beginning of the 70s, they had a big dream to compete in Le Mans for the overall win. Crazy times and just also this storage here, such a beautiful place where we keep all the nice cars in such a historic place as well.
Definitely.
And as you can see, there's a little gap in between. So why don't we just put in the rig here? So you're now in between the two Le Mans legends. You have the 917, really where it all began, where it all started with the first overall winner for Porsche at Le Mans. Probably one of the most famous cars for Porsche Motorsport and Porsche history at Le Mans. Such an icon, cool car. You have the Spider, also a Le Mans icon, and now you're in between.
It's quite different when you get the contrast of all the cars, especially this one. You know, it's quite old. This is extremely new. Yeah, you can see so many stark differences, especially seeing only two drivers on the car. That seems kind of crazy to do for a 24-hour race. I can't even imagine that right now in the rig, so.
Yeah, definitely different times, but it's a new era. You're next in line. You're part of Porsche Motorsport history already, and you're aiming for the first overall virtual Le Mans win. So we are all excited to see you competing there and hopefully get the first win for Porsche there. I think it's quite exciting times.
Yeah, thank you for having us and showing us around this absolutely incredible facility. With that being said though, why don't we show you around into our world?
Perfect. That's what I've been waiting for the whole day.
Jump in.